Hello, my name's Harold. Today is sort of a departure from the steam engine. I got another little project that I couldn't wait to work on, so I spent a few days working on that. And we'll have a little bit about a couple of my two of my three viewers have been doing things. Uh, Before we get there, though, I was just yesterday finishing up, well, maybe the day before yesterday, my upgrade to Windows 10. And Windows 10 is paid for by dumping a bunch of ads on you and by snooping in your emails and snooping on your web surfing and sharing that with all of Microsoft's friends. If you don't want them scanning your email and telling everybody where you web surf, well, then what you need to do is establish a local account and turn off Cortana. That's their version of Siri, and then you might have some semblance of privacy. I don't guarantee that, but that's what I've heard. And so we'll move on to other stuff now. That Windows 10 and all the snooping and the people that snoop on us these days electronically and all that, it reminded me of when I was a teenager in high school. I read George Orwell's book 1984, and in 1984 the world was divided up into three different countries, and they were all taking turns being buddies with each other and being at war with the other, you know. And the guy in our hero's country was Big Brother. He was the symbol of the state. He was supposedly the benevolent dictator of everything. And they had signs and reminders for everybody that Big Brother is watching you. And Big Brother had the ability to watch you through your TV set. And of course, back then that was impossible to do. But just reading about all that, you know, all the dictatorship and the lack of any rights or privacy or anything was give me chills for a week, and I was just a dumb kid. Today, if you got a smart TV and it's got a webcam built in, you probably can't stop them from watching you. If you got a webcam on your PC and you leave it plugged in, chances are somebody can watch you if they feel like it. Uh, that's just not science fiction anymore. In fact, today you can be snooped on to almost maybe more of an extent than in the book 1984. So Big Brother really and truly is watching you. I guess previous generations would have required a search warrant for all the information they get now for just tapping into it. All right, let's move on to happier stuff. I got a book from one of my three viewers, from Brent Green. His handle is DigiConsole. I guess that may be how he says it. And he sent me this book right here, and I really like it. It's a book full of absolute facts and truth. And in here, he talks about people worrying about safety. People these days will give up safety. Well, I'm sorry, they'll give up security and privacy for what they think is safety. And really and truly, you can't be safe because something can get you no matter what. But anyway, it's a good book, and when I finish it, I'm probably going to pass it on to somebody. Uh, and another thing that, one of the other viewers, I want to say thanks, Brent, for the book, because it's a great book. And we got Steve Caney. He sent me a wiring diagram, and he can you see that? Okay, it's probably better than looking at me. But anyway, he suggested instead of using a stepper motor to raise my mill head up and down, that I use a windshield wiper motor, and it's all a compact unit. It's already geared down. It's a simple DC motor, and all you got to do is put some power in it. And I knew an old guy that used to do stuff with them like that back in the '60s, and so it all made sense to me. So I decided, well, we're going to let Steve run the show here, and I'm going to put it all together, and if this thing works, Steve gets all the credit, and if it don't work, Steve's going to get all the blame. So I couldn't think of any good story to tell you guys today, so what we'll do is we'll just, well, I can think of one story. It's not very interesting, but back when I was in the age and I was reading that in 1984, I had an American history teacher. She was an old lady that I guess she'd been teaching in the school district there since they started writing on parchment. And she'd gotten kind of eccentric by the time that I came along. And she told us, well, it looks like it's going to rain. She had to go down the hall and call her dog to put down the windows. I'm not saying that she couldn't have had a dog trained to do that when it got a telephone call, but I'm not betting on it. Anyway, I had an All-State 125 motorcycle, which was not much of a motorcycle. It actually was made by Pook, and it'd been detuned to be 5 horsepower so that it would be a motor scooter, you know. That fit the rules for the USA. And so being that I was into that sort of thing, I was on the way home from school one day, and I stopped off at, well, I saw the sign outside the Harley dealer. They had new models in there, and I went home, and I thought, well, I'd like to go back to the Harley dealer and look at that stuff. So I threw my history book down on the driveway there at the gate and just turned around and went back to the Harley dealer. It rained while I was gone. And when I got back, my history book, which had started about like that, was, you know, about like that. It was really swollen up. And so I put it in the garage and spread it out, hoping to dry it out, you know, which is a hopeless task. And so I went to class a couple of days without a history book, and that old lady got on my case pretty heavy. And so the third day, I thought, well, I'd better take the book in, you know, and I took it, and I was sitting there reading it, and she come by, and she looked at that, and she almost had a heart attack there, and she yelled, "My God, that's a sacrilege," you know, because the book was kind of wrinkled up, the pages all were, and swollen, and so she was unhappy with me, so she went down to the principal and said, well, I wasn't making good grades in her class, that I needed 2 or 3 weeks in study hall, which was detention hall, you know, and so they called my mother in and got her to agree that I needed some time in study hall because I wasn't making good grades, which wasn't the issue at all. It was because I messed up that history book's what the issue was. And of course I paid for the book, bought a new one, and all that sort of thing, but it didn't matter. And one thing led to another, and I never did show up for detention hall. The principal would call me down to the office, and he'd say, "You didn't go to detention hall yesterday, did you?" I'd say, "No, sir, I didn't." He says, "Well, you going to go tomorrow?" I said, "Probably not." So after we went through this for about a week or two, I went down, and he was going to expel me, and I said, "No," I said, "I'll just quit." And so I quit school right there, about a third way into the 11th grade there. And I spent the year out doing things like working for an air conditioning man and working in gas stations and stuff. And by the next year, I figured out that I really shouldn't have quit, you know, and I went back and finished. But that put me a year behind where I should have been, and I graduated with a bunch of people I didn't really know. But that's the way it goes when you're hard-headed and stubborn. But the way I saw it, I hadn't done anything to deserve detention hall, hadn't broke any of the rules. I paid for the book I ruined. They didn't have no right to put me in there, and I wasn't going. So I don't know. It's hard-headedness, I guess, runs in the family. Well, let's get on with making a power lift for my milling grilling machine head here. I bought this piece of metal Monday down at Steel Supply, and I'm going to cut off about 5 inches of it to make a bracket to hold the windshield wiper motor that I'm going to use to lift the head up and down there. And it's a little wider than I needed, but they don't sell 3 3/4 inch wide stuff like that, I don't believe. So I'm going to go and chuck it up over there in the saw and cut off about 5 inches of it. Let's try to feed it gently. Surprise, surprise, it's not square. The end that Steel Supply guys cut off is pretty near square, but the end that I just cut off is kind of, I think maybe you can see the light between the ends. It's kind of U-shaped here. I'll straighten that out. It doesn't matter anyway, as long as this was within 1/8 of an inch, everything's going to work out all right. Okay, so I've got the X and Y coordinates on the DRO, and I'm just going to go down, drill a hole, and so on, you know, like one here, and back according to the coordinates that I've measured there. And I'm not going to mark off anything here. I'm just going to excuse me, check them with my calipers to make sure they're exactly right. Well, I had an old dull hole saw that I tried on that, but it didn't make it all the way through, so I'm going to get a new one and we'll start over. Well, I wiped out the only hole saw that I seem to own. It was a little bit thin and slick already, so I went down to Harbor Freight and got a set of bimetal hole saws, and maybe they'll last for a while. So what we're going to do here, sorry about all the camera shaking, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to drill a hole through there and see if that won't get me closer. Alright, here we go. I did a little reality check before I drilled the holes to make sure that they were kind of close to the right spot, and I think they're probably kind of close to the right spot. But we're going to get down to the moment of truth here. Find out whether these things will screw in or not. Come on. When you lay out for bolt circles on that DRO, it thinks back towards the column is 3. Alright, so there's the motor, center of the hole. It'll sit lean back a little bit from straight on, but it's in the middle of the hole, and everything's going to work like that. We'll find out anyway. We'll come back in a minute when I get down to the next step. Well, here we are at another day, and this stuff came in today. This is the 1/16 rod that I needed to put in things on that little engine, but I can't machine brass down that small. And I worked some yesterday on this thing here. I had to start over, and I'm sure you're kind of surprised that guys perfect as me have to start over, but I held my straight edge, my square up against the thing, trying to figure where the center of the crank was, and I missed it by 1/4 of an inch, so I had to go back and do the whole game over again. Hand move this a little bit, but that crank there is, the center of it is actually 2 inches down from here, and I took it off and took the worm gear out and looked at it to make sure that was really right. So now I need to get started making, well, I'll have to deburr that, and then I'll make coupling to go on there, between there and the motor. Alright, lathe's all oiled up. I'm going to use this to make both halves of the coupling. Go about halfway through with a hole that's as close to 17 millimeters as I can make it. Then the other end is going to be much smaller. So what I'll do is just drill halfway through, and then I'll part this thing off, and then I'll mill out slots for these couplings to fit together. This will be two halves of one coupling. think I took it down to where that socket goes in there, and that'll screw the nut down on the little shaft that comes out of the motor. Next step, the mill. Okay, so I've got this guy cut a slot. I'm going to cut down both sides of that part so the coupling will fit together like that, you know. And that should turn pretty well all right. Okay, so there's progress being made. That little guy fits on there. Of course, I've got to go down further, but it seems to fit pretty good there. As long as it's centered up right, it should be all right. If it's not, I'll have to make one of them skinnier or something, but I'm going to go right on to the bottom of that, make it a whole ½ inch down. Well, that's a little bit of the way it's going to fit. It's kind of even slide on there. I need to put a set screw in, but I think I'll put the set screw around here. I think that would fit better like that. And looks to be a little bit loose on these ends here because it moved on me a couple of times when I was cutting it, and I guess I didn't have it down tight enough, but you can see the ends here are not perfect. So tough break, but it's going to work. Alright, so I need just a couple of washers here. Got this little wavy washer going in there, and this lock washer is going on top of it, and I've got to get a socket. That's the right size. Ooh. I didn't really drop that, I was just making noise for entertainment. Okay, so set this little booger over there, see if I can start him. No. Heh. I didn't start it. Well, now we'll start over. This may take a few fumbling around moments. I think I'll let you wait until I get it screwed down. Alright, I tightened it down good and proper there. And that shaft's got some little splines on it, and get this thing in the right spot here where you can see what's going on. There. This shaft's got some little splines on it. Not sure if I showed you that or not, but that's why I made the hole big enough for the screwed part, but not big enough for the rest of it. And I just sort of squeezed it down on those splines, and that should keep it good and tight. And next thing now, I got to put a set screw or grub screw, whatever you call it, in the other piece. Alright, so there we are. Set screw inserted, and I'm sure I'll probably have to move it further back or something, but right now it's at that point. The next thing I got to do is get some threaded rods to hold the motor and its little mount out away from there, so that I can figure out just exactly how long I need the bolts. So anyway, it's after 9 and I'm tired, and I'm going to knock it off and come back tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning or something, tomorrow anyway. Here we are starting another day, and I've gone to Home Depot and got another box of nuts. It seems like I use those up enough, but I thought I'd start buying them in bulk. I've made myself some little spacers to make up for where the head of these bolts, these cap screws, would go into the side of the machine there, and these spacers should keep me off of going too deep or not going deep enough or whatever. I won't skin things up anyway. I made 4 of those. It's easier to make them than to try to find them around town somewhere. And I'm going to screw them into the side of the machine, and I've painted this up nice to sort of match the Grizzly color, and I think it'll work. and here in a little bit we'll be up to trying electricity on this thing, see if it works. Okay, so let's imagine a drum roll here. I've got this thing loose. It's loose. Loosen it a little bit more to make sure I don't have anything draggy. Alright, that's certifiably loose. I got a battery charger there. Steve, the guy who suggested all this stuff, and the one who's going to be to blame if it don't work, suggested running a battery charger. Although I do have a, actually I've got a PC power supply that I'm going to probably use on it if it handles the load. So anyway, let me insulate that clip just a little bit better. Looks like it might be touching the side of the motor, and I don't want that to cause me a problem. There. Now then. Alright. Once again, we need to imagine the drum roll, and we're going to plug it in and see if smoke comes out or what. Here goes. It went down a little, or up, and it stopped. And we're pegged out at 6 amps on the battery charger. So maybe that was trying to go up. I'll reverse it and we'll see if it'll go down. Undoubtedly, we don't have enough power here. The PC power supply says it's rated at 10 amps. So that's quite a bit more than this little battery charger. And I can, if this don't work, then we're going to hook it up. But just for now, let's see if reversing the wires will do any good. Maybe this will be the downward direction. No, she's stuck tighter than you can imagine. It's not moving. So I gotta fool around with it a few minutes and I'll come back. Alright, 50% success, but not in the right direction. It doesn't have enough power to make it go up, but it's got enough power to come down. Look at that. So I think I didn't have the coupling really straight there the first time around, and now that I've got it down, we can reverse it and see if it'll go up. And if it doesn't, then we're going to have to drag out the PC power supply and see if we need just a little bit more amperage, which is probably what we need. The motor doesn't feel hot, but then again it's got a plastic housing around it, so it probably wouldn't transfer much heat there anyway. Alright. At least not until it burned all the way up. Let's try it to go up again. No. It takes the whole 8 amps that battery charger, I'm sorry, 6 amps that battery charger can put out, so let me wire up the PC power supply. Okay, so I got the PC power supply here, and it's got a protection in it. If it gets overloaded, it will trip off and have to wait until it cools off enough to work again. And I don't know if I've got it wired to go up or down. I didn't pay attention to the polarity a minute ago, and I should have. But anyway, if it trips off trying to go up, well, that'll be that. And if it starts heading down, then I'll make a note of the polarity, and then we'll try to go up. Let's just see what happens. Well, I guess it just tripped off. There was a pop when I plugged it in. So. Alright, I resorted to duct tape. Let's let you know that once I get to the all-purpose tool, the Redneck's all-purpose tool, the situation's getting serious. And I got a battery charger there that will jump start your big old V8 engine car, and it's 100 amps, and by golly, we'll either make this thing move or we'll make the magic smoke come out, but something's going to happen. So all I can say is Redneck's famous last words. Hey y'all, watch this. And the drum roll again, please. Alright, here we go. Who knows what's going to happen? Well, she's going up. She's maxed out on the amp meter, I think, but there you are. So to make that booger roll, it's probably going to take a big old car battery and a powerful power supply. There's a tiny bit of warmth in the wires, but you know, so we know that eventually we're going to make this work. So Steve, you get the credit still. Poor guy, he made the suggestion, so you know he gets the credit if it does work, or if it doesn't, or the blame if it doesn't work. Me being just the innocent workman standing here on to the side. But now I got to figure out. I don't want to leave my best battery charger hooked up to this thing forever. Besides, it's kind of big. I got to work out the bit about the battery, and then we'll try and wire things up and try for the final test of making it really sure enough work. And here's something I bet you'd be surprised to see. When I went to get this thing off the shelf, I pulled on the handle and this wonderful cheap plastic little strap broke off on it. Why don't they make anything out of metal these days, or actual good material, you know? Well, they're going to say, well, you had that battery charger 10 years, what do you expect? Well, I expect the handle to be good until they don't charge batteries anymore. And then I expect it to still be good. It ought to be a non-failing kind of piece. We can't get anything good these days except old geezers. I made 4 new bolts for the thing. Here's the last one, but it seems steady enough just like that it doesn't seem to need another one. So I guess what I'll do is to just leave it with 3, kind of like a 3-cornered stool. Only not quite as well laid out, but that's what I'm going to do. And look at that little bugger go up. Of course, I need a limit switch probably so I don't run right off the top. But that'll be really nice when it's really finished. Alright, well, I think the rest of the day I need to spend thinking about what I'm going to do about the battery and cleaning up in here. This place is really dirty.